The decade was the 1960s. The place was a Sunday school class, a 7th grade Sunday school class, whereas 7th grade girls do. The girls are trying to be nice and behave and be proper. And where sometimes 7th grade boys were acting as they do, being extremely active, extremely rude, and basically obnoxious. The occasion was the 4th Sunday of the new school year, when a set of teachers came into the class. And the boys were excited because to this point, they had run off not one, not two, but 3 sets of teachers, 3 weeks in a row. A new couple came into the class, and the class began. Our text for today comes first of all from John. Beautiful passage, John 1:14. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We value God's presence. God's covenant with us is, I will be your God, which means I will be with you, and you shall be my people. We know God's presence in spirit, in sensing and experience. This is a unique thing, however, when God became human and lived among us. The presence of God became even more real. And at the end of Matthew's gospel, Jesus is talking to those gathered around him before he goes away into spirit. And he says to them, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Clearly, God is present. But God's presence goes even further, as we hear in this little verse from Matthew 18:20, when Jesus says to those with him, when 2 or 3, just 2 or 3 of you, gather in my name in the Spirit of God, I am with you. God is with us. All Saints' Day, a day when we remember those who have gone, those who have died, especially those in the last year, but we also remember those we've lost in time past. All Saints' Day, a day when we recognize the saints among us. Trying to define a saint is somewhat difficult. Now, we're not Catholic, so we don't have that structure in our system of defining and declaring someone to be saint. But lest you think defining saint within Catholicism is a piece of cake, when the Pope visited America, he declared a new saint. But there's been a lot of discussion about whether this particular guy was really a saint or not. Because all of us likely have some type of list rumbling around inside our heads about what a saint is and is not. And my hunch is most of us have some type of checklist about what a saint ought to be like. Somebody holy, somebody good, somebody who's nice, somebody who offers love and compassion, somebody who is morally straight, somebody who gets real close to living without sin. What we really want is to have have somebody be designated saint and move them out of the class of being human. The reality, though, is saints are humans, just like us. Therefore, when the Apostle Paul wrote to some of the churches, like the church in Rome, or the church in Corinth, or the church in Philippi, Paul would write and say, to the saints in Rome, to the saints in Corinth, to the saints in Philippi. And if you think those people were always really nice, you need to go back and study your scripture again. Trying to figure out what a saint is difficult, because we really want a saint to be more than human. And yet the reality is, absolutely every one of us is saintly. For some reason, seeing the good in somebody, the positive, and seeing their wonderful life-giving attributes seems a little bit easier when we lose someone in death. Now, I think this is okay. We tend to suspend judgment. Oh yeah, we remember, well, they were mean to me one time, but you know, they really were, on the whole, a very caring person. We look at those positive attributes, and I think that's okay. The difficulty I find in that is, we ought to be looking at people that way all the time. I do that. Preparing for a funeral, I start saying, well, tell me stories about this person. If I know them, I start remembering the good things about them. But I'm supposed to do that all the time. But I don't. I judge. Now, if you come to me and say, well, John, write down a list of living saints, I can put some names down. And you might say, well, what about so-and-so? Why didn't you put them down? I might say, well, what about you, John? You didn't put your name down. Are you kidding me? And yet, at least in my understanding, and what I truly believe and what I think, if I work hard enough, if I listen carefully enough, if I really look at any other human being carefully enough, I can find something good, positive, and loving about them. I need to do that much more than I do. Absolutely every one of us are saints. Think about it this way. A woman by the name of Nadia Bolz-Weber started a congregation in Denver. She started this Evangelical Lutheran Church of America congregation while she was going to Iowa School of Theology. And she came up with this wonderful name for this congregation, the House for All Sinners and Saints. I like that name. That describes us all. The House for All Sinners and Saints. That's who we are, simultaneously. In her newest book, Accidental Saints, I lifted out this quote from Nadia, where she says, "What makes us saints of God is not our ability to be saintly, but rather God's ability to work through sinners." God's ability to work through sinners. saintliness is about God and God's movement in the lives of each other and others and people in our world, no matter who they are or what they are. When we see God moving, we can say, ah, saint. All of us, sinner and saint, simultaneously. And yet here we are on this All Saints Sunday, acknowledging that we as human beings have a difficult time in seeing each other as saints, and certainly find it a struggle to say that you yourself are a saint. But we also have this thing called grief going on among us. We've lost some really wonderful saints in this last year. And it hurts. We're all impacted by grief in some way, in all of life. Every time we experience a loss, we grieve, we mourn. And some of you have lost loved ones in time past, and that grief goes on. That goes away. It could change. I mean, the grief is a journey. It goes on and on and on. And yet, we keep losing loved ones. I mean, not only last year that we know about, but some of you have lost loved ones that we don't even know about. And you don't even have to look. There was an airplane crash that yesterday killed 224 people. That's grief in our world. So we have to deal with grief. We can't just deny it. We can't ignore it. More than likely, the one aspect of the lives of those whom we lost in death is that we miss their presence. I'm not suggesting we don't miss the wonderful things they did for us or how they made us feel or how we're in relationship with them. I'm saying they're gone. And you think, oh, I'll go in the other room and tell, or oh, I'm going to pick up the phone, or the next time I see him, or I got to remember to. Presence. We miss their presence in our lives. So we have the metaphor of caterpillar and butterfly before us this morning. And I think it's a powerful metaphor. The metaphor is very apt, I think, as we think about resurrection of the body. You think about that caterpillar, metamorphoses, transitions, transforms from caterpillar to butterfly. A powerful metaphor for us to think about resurrection, this new life from the same to something new and different. But that metaphor of resurrection also helps us in our grieving. Yes, we miss them. We love them. We miss their presence in how they were a part of our lives. But we simply trust the God of life and resurrection to have transformed them into a new existence, into that mystery I talked about. But that metaphor of caterpillar to butterfly also can apply to us in our lives. I think we go from caterpillar to butterfly over and over and over again. But sometimes that caterpillar is like I am when I start judging people, slotting people into categories and saying, oh, well, you know what they're like. That's caterpillar thinking. And I need the grace of God to help me come out of that caterpillar state of judgment into the butterfly state of traveling through this world lightly with more acceptance, more kindness, and more laugh. One of the biggest aspects of grieving is missing the person's presence. Presence is so important. The class began. The girls were as nice as always, but the boys took this as an excellent challenge. They'd run three couples. Now here was fresh meat. A new couple. And so the boys began putting on their best, pushing, shoving, not paying attention, not listening. When somebody from the couple said to them, something to them, making a rude or obnoxious remark, making terrible noises. Until finally, about the middle of the class, the woman of the couple finally got their attention. Now, what you need to know about this couple is, they weren't number one on the list to teach the 7th grade class, obviously. And if you knew anything about them, or if you could have seen into their future, you would have said, we don't want these folks teaching our children in church. They both smoked, they both drank, they both were involved in illicit and unsavory activities and relationships, car accidents, strange occasions. And we knew about it. We could hear the gossip, we could read the papers. They certainly weren't the people you and I would have picked to say, oh, these are the ones we want teaching Sunday school. No way. Saint? I'm not sure they checked off any of those boxes. But she stood up and she said, boys, I know what you're doing. You've gotten rid of 3 couples. I know that. And you're trying to get rid of us. But let me tell you something. It's not going to work. We're staying. That couple, with all their foibles, taught our class for the rest of our 7th grade year. Then they taught us in the 8th grade. Our class moved upstairs to the senior high room. And they went with us. And they taught Sunday school until we graduated from high school. I don't know about anybody else, but they made a difference in my life. And I'm here today because they were present. Not because of what they did, not because of what they taught, but just because they were there. So I can't tell you what a saint is or what a saint isn't. But I can tell you that I think saints are present. And that may very well be why my favorite text is Romans 8:38 and 39. For I am convinced that nothing, neither death nor life, nor things past, nor things to come, nor powers, nor principalities, nor angels, nor powers in the air, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else can separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus, our Lord. God is present. May we be present to each other and to our world. Let us join together in our prayer of great thanksgiving. Christ be with you.
And also with you.
Lift up your hearts.
We lift them up to God.
Let us give thanks to the Holy One.
It is right to give our thanks and praise.
It is right, a good and joyful thing, always and everywhere, to give our thanks to you, Alpha and Omega, beginning and ending of all creation. In time past, you promised to lead all the nations to your holy mountain and swallow up death forever. You have revealed the coming of a new heaven and new earth, in which every tear will be wiped from our eyes, and all will feast at your heavenly banquet. And so, with your saints now on earth, and all the company of heaven, we praise your name and join their unending hymn, saying, Holy, holy, holy Lord, God of power and might, heaven and earth are full of your glory. Holy God, we thank you for being with us always. We especially thank you for your presence in our lives as we mourn those whom we have lost from our lives. Thank you, God, for faith, strength, and love as we grieve and mourn. We are grateful for those who were in our lives, teaching and showing us how to live fully and love extravagantly. We remember them, and in our tears and laughter, we give thanks for these and all whom we remember. In a time of silence, we remember some of those whom we lost to death in the last year.